Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Kennedy, along with my partner Charles Motts.
Glad to
Welcome
be
back
here.
to Barn Talk. Today we have a very special guest. We have former Mayor Lloyd Johnson. Lloyd is a Vietnam veteran, declared war hero. And how you doing this morning, Lloyd?
I'm doing good, Brent. Okay, thanks for inviting me. This sounds really interesting to do this.
Glad to
Okay.
have you here today.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
We're glad you're still with us.
Yeah, that's right.
So today we'd like to talk about the Veterans Memorial
Yes.
and how all that got started. Lloyd, why don't you lead with that?
Well, this was a dream. You know, we had a few of us that was involved. We had George Ogden, we had Glenn Kennedy, we had Rob Sotelo, and myself. We were the four. Then we had Corey Warshaw. He kind of helped in a little bit, but we were the main ones that got this thing going. It was a dream that we had, and we did it for quite a few years, trying to get donations here and donations there. But we had a problem of coming up with the exact amount of funds that we had. We had a vision of how much we thought it would cost, but then the price went higher and higher. So I could go in and tell you how we finally had to get with the city council. And back then you had Councilman Herford, Councilman Tui, Councilman Sherry Lane, Councilman Roger Hernandez, and Shelley Sanderson. Those were our council members. So we took it in front of the city council. And what was great about that council, they jumped on board right away. They didn't even hesitate. They said, how do we get the funds? So we have what they call arts in public places. When a big business does a business, they build something, especially manufacturing stuff, they have to do some kind of art piece. Besides, if they don't want to do an art piece, you have to donate to the arts in public places. And that's where the money came from to do this. That's kind of gives you an idea where we got
Yeah,
off the ground.
I want to go into a little bit of the detail on that.
What do you want?
Okay, so as you said, we started this in the '90s,
Yes.
and so at the time, the city of West Covina was not doing any memorials. We were going to both the American Legion for the early one and the VFW for the later one, for both
Yes.
Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And so we came up with the city needed to do one, and they had all the plaques of all the branches of services, but we needed to have a memorial that had the names on it.
Yeah, like you said, they had the plaques. So eventually we started having on Veterans Day and Memorial Day there at City Hall down in the courtyard. But we didn't have anything to represent what the veterans about. They had the plaques on the wall, and they mentioned them.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that was just telling about each of the branches. That had nothing to do with the memorial, you know. So we wanted something to represent the veterans of West Covina.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ones that, like I said, we decided all the way back to, we started with World War II because that's, West Covina wasn't incorporated in
No.
World War One. So that's where we started from. In World War II, we had Korea, we had Vietnam, we had the Persian Gulf, and then we left one. What we wanted was one empty for further conflicts if we ever have one. We pray we never have one, but if we do, we had to have one for it. So like Glenn and George and myself, and like I said, Rob Sotelo, he chimed in a little bit, but eventually he backed off a little bit, and we were the three main forces to get this veteran memorial going.
I also want to tell everybody that it was it's very difficult at that time. We did not have access to the internet, so we had to do everything by going to the library, and we had to research names.
Yeah.
And by that time, the majority of the World War II veterans had passed on,
Yes,
and so there's only a few. Bill Berger was a big help because
yes, he
him
was.
and Coach Maxon were, I think, the last two, and then Coach Maxon passed away, so it was just Bill Berger, and he was the last surviving member.
Yes, he was.
So how it was back then when you enlisted, say you lived in West Covina, Covina, La Puente, or whatever, you gave your street address, but you didn't say City of West Covina or City of Covina. It said County of Los Angeles.
Yes, it did.
So that made it almost impossible. So we knew at some point that we were going to have to add more names because they would eventually come up. But it was not an easy task. It took us a long time. like Lloyd said, this was supposed to be a private thing that we were donating to the city, so the city did not have to pay any money, but it was going to cost 100 grand, and what we 10 years we only raised 20,000. Plus, we were in the middle of a recession, and nobody had any money. We got donations of $25, $50 here, and I know Councilman Herford and Councilman Toohey gave us 10,000 to start off, but after that we just couldn't raise any money, so we went to the city council and we asked for their help, and then they were gracious enough to have the public art fund, and you know what? This is exactly what it's for. This is if there was anything there ever was, this was it. And it's a beautiful memorial.
Yes, it is.
And now the city has 2 memorials a year.
And the other part about when you have to remember when you go to the city, they have a lot to say about if they're going to have the money put into it. So when you go to arts and public places, you have to get an artist. We had some designs that what we wanted to do and stuff like that. When you get the city involved, they hire an artist to come to put up some renderings of what we wanted. So the artist brought the renderings to us. We had a meeting. We had a few of them. I know a few of them we had some really tough discussions that they wanted something that we didn't want, that we wasn't going to go for. So we had some heated discussions about it. But finally we came to a consensus between our committee and the city, something we thought that would fit everybody, that would do justice, and what we did, we ended up with a beautiful memorial.
Yes, we did. They did present us one that was glass.
Yes.
And it was frosted glass. It was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. But we couldn't leave it outside. We figured somebody would tag it or it would get broken. Something would happen. Now we agreed if it was inside, we'd have it. But I really liked that one. That one was absolutely gorgeous.
It was. I agree with you. It was beautiful. But my main concern was that they could get broken because they were individual ones standing by themselves. And somehow, even though they'd have to be anchored down from the bottom, somebody would do something to chip one of them, and anything could happen to them. And I figured it's just way too much investment to take a chance and have something like this happen to them. So,
and at the time, those panels of glass were like $10,000 or $15,000 a piece.
yeah, I think.
And there was 4 of them?
4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
And they were set on different angles. It wasn't just lined up. It was something that you could walk through. And that's the only thing that made it more appealing at the time, because you could actually walk through each of the panels. They were separated. But the ones that we came up with now, I think it wasn't, like I said, the first choice, but they turned out beautiful, and it came out to be a great choice. So, like I said, we have, I hope, eventually, and sometime in the future, right there, these 2 gentlemen. I have a lot of pictures of the Mexican Memorial when they were making them. We went down to where they were making them, and I will be going to have them sent to them so they can publish them. But I think the people will be really amazed to see exactly how these memorials were made, the artists, how they did, especially the 2 on the ends. The one end, as you look at it from the front, the one on the left as you look at it, that represents like World War II, the wars back then, the Korean War and World War II. It shows how the veterans were dressed. It shows a couple of the different equipment they used. The planes and everything else is different. And the one on the right is the modern days, like Vietnam and like that. And it shows the era, how times changed from World War II to Vietnam, the different uniforms and different equipment the United States had to use with them. And I think that brings full circle around the memorial itself, from World War II all the way up to the Persian Gulf and like that. So I think those that want to go see it, I think they should go see it. You can sit down in front of it. They have a bench that goes all the way around it. It has lights on it at nighttime. The whole place is lit up at nighttime. You can take your family there. You can sit down in front of the memorial on the wall. And we have families that go there every year that they have their relatives, especially in Vietnam. They have relatives because that's the ones from Vietnam. We have more families that are still around than we do on the other one, the Korea stuff. Like remember, I don't think we have a Korean one on there because
We couldn't
we
find
haven't
it. We
found
couldn't.
anybody from Korea that lived in West Covina. That's but we have it there and it's blank. And what we want, and we've always told everybody, if you know of somebody that either a relative, a friend, or a friend of a friend that you know lived in West Covina and was in the Korean War, we want you to bring the name forward. Like Glenn himself, he's a great investigator as far as I'm concerned. He can investigate names and find out where they were, and he can come up with it. And if we ever find someone that was there, yes, we would. It takes money, but that we still have money in there for that, for the upkeep of the Veteran Memorial. And if any names have to be added, that's the money was nothing to account for. To add names or any upkeep that has to be done to it.
I was going to tell you, Lloyd, that during the research, I only actually found a couple people that actually did serve. They weren't killed. I think the only one alive is Mr. Bacon Sakatani. I think he's the last one.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I think that's so. I couldn't find anybody who was killed in action.
And that's one of the things that when you come up with the Veteran Memorial, there's other cities that I know of. They have their Veteran Memorial, but that's for anybody. They can be living the day, working full time, everything else, and they say because they were a veteran, they're on there. You know what? We pay respect to veterans highly. It doesn't have to be on the wall to pay respect to a veteran. But when you want to do something above and beyond, you know, for those who paid the ultimate price, that's what our Veteran Memorial is about. Those who paid the ultimate price. Those who went to a conflict and didn't come home. So now we say, hey, physically you're not here, but spiritually you will always be here. When you have a name engraved on stone, that name's there forever. And the people may not be here, the veterans may not be here, the families may not even be around anymore. But residents or anybody that goes to our Veteran Memorial, they can see the names up there. And they can pay respect. Oh, I remember that person. I remember that family. And that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's
Go
about.
ahead, Lloyd. I mean, Charles.
Charles, you want to say something?
It certainly is the jewel of West Covina. If you haven't seen it where they put it down in there, we had some, remember so many of our young people in West Covina who during the Second War and also didn't have to go because they were farmers, but they signed up right away, and I think they'd appreciate what you've all done. I know they would. And
Charles, I want to stop you right there.
Yeah.
Please explain to the audience why they didn't have to go. There was a reason why.
we needed the food. They needed the food in the Pacific, and we raised food here. We had our walnuts and we had our oranges, but we also had vacant piece of property that was raising cauliflower, lettuce, beans, especially black-eyed peas was quite a thing. And actually we were running out of food because we had very few unexperienced or experienced farmers. And all at once the military or our government realized that so many of the young people in the farming area, of course they weren't that young, but they were 16 and they knew how to farm with their dads and grandfathers, were leaving, going off to war. And we didn't have enough food to even can, or most of the food was canned then. And they just stopped it. And a lot of them had to stay here. And a few of them kind of got their way out and they wanted to go off and fight for the country. And I think that was a real plus for our West Covina and the areas. And we weren't the only areas that was taking place. But it was, we had a few here that were in the First War, and they did their duties, and some of the farmers gave up their mules and their horses for both wars. So it was something that we needed to do, and they brought in some machinery, Caterpillar and Ford, so they could help out with the lack of manpower. So West Covina did their part, but I think you people have done your part to recognize them much more. It is a beautiful, beautiful place you've done in the location.
Well, thank you, Charles.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Lloyd. It's
thank
an
you.
honor.
Thank you for your service.
I've known
Both
Lloyd.
of you, thank you for your
Just let
service.
everybody know I've known Lloyd 40 years. We started together when we protested against the pillowcase rapists.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
I've known
That-
Charles just practically my whole life.
Yes.
If I may, I just want to say what an honor it was to sit down with you two gentlemen. You know, this is something that they have to know about. It isn't just a memorial that was just put there.
Mhm.
How was it put there? What was the concept of it? You know, the discussions, some of the us sitting around being really upset because we couldn't get what we wanted.
Mhm.
But you know what? We all came to a consensus this was the best for the city. And I'm telling you, it is a beautiful memorial. And I would tell you, if you get the chance, go by City Hall, go down in the courtyard. You don't have to have an appointment to go down there. You can go to City Hall. It's public property. You can go down there and you can see this memorial.
Mhm.
And just take a look at what was done. At nighttime, there's lights on it. Like I said, we made it so you can go down there if you want to have a little picnic with your family, if you have a loved one that's on there, you want to spend time with them, you go down with a little picnic and sit down and talk and you know, and visit with them. And that's what it's about. That's what it's
Yes,
about.
it is. Yes,
And
it
you
is.
know, let everybody know, we're still open-minded. You know, you have to pay the ultimate price to be on that wall.
Yeah.
And that's part of it is. But we're open-minded that if somebody that isn't on that wall at this time can come up that they were born or lived in West Covina like that, you know, and maybe they weren't living in West Covina when they died, but you know, we're open-minded to see, you know, if there's something we can do for every family. We want every family to be able to pay respect to their loved ones.
And I think the veterans of West Covina would thank you for both of
100%.
For what you've done.
Thank you very
You
much,
know,
Lloyd.
Very
Thank
much
you,
so.
Charles.
Yeah,
You're
I want
welcome.
to thank you guys for having me here. It's been an honor, and if you ever need something for me to come back to, I'd love to come back.
Thank you.
Been
Lloyd.
our honor too.
And with that, I'd like to say thank you, and happy Veterans Day, and God bless everybody. Thank you.
God bless
Thank you.
America.